Welcome back to the Marriage and Real Estate Podcast. We're your hosts, Kevin and Aisha Shelton, and we are happy to be back for another episode.
We are.
So what's new in these real estate streets?
The world is ending.
The world is ending.
The real estate world is ending.
Can the real estate world be evolving?
Okay, that's a way to look at it.
The real estate world. But if it's ending, tell me more about how you feel like the real estate world is ending.
So, of course, I know you've probably seen the news about ChatGPT and all the technologies that have recently become available and how they're revolutionizing social media and marketing and all the things that for many, many years was very antiquated and handled by a marketer or a copywriter and things like that. Well, those things also impact the real estate industry.
Okay.
So one of the things that I'm most excited about, but also changes the dynamics of the real estate industry, is the use of these AI technologies, right? So artificial reality, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, Bitcoin, kind of all the scary buzzwords around technology that people say and how they impact our tried and true real estate industry.
Yeah, so we've been playing around a little bit with AI.
We have been.
Very much impressed and obsessed. Impressed and obsessed. And it's funny because one of my colleagues said, I was afraid of this kind of stuff and I was just, putting it out of my mind. And what I said to her was, well, you can ignore it, but it's going to be there anyway. So you might as well jump on the bandwagon because it's coming. Forget it's coming. It's here. And you are going to be outside of the matrix, if you will, if you don't jump on, and you'll be looking around wondering what everybody else is doing, and we're on a whole nother plane.
So, the craziest part about this is real estate is one of the oldest professions in all the time. So it's gone through several different evolutions, and the people who don't adapt die, right?
That's true. And I mean, honestly, technology in the real estate industry has already changed the way we do a lot of things. I mean, from a realtor perspective, we have a cloud CMA. There was once a time when what was for sale was in a newspaper. You know what I mean? Or it was extremely hand to hand more than it was what we have now. We have Zillow and we have Redfin, and people are essentially buying houses without realtors time and time again.
No, that's a way that technology is changing the industry, right? And eliminating a lot of jobs and adding new, different jobs.
Yeah.
Like you said, real estate was one time in the newspaper. Well, where's the newspaper now? Right?
In our phone, in our hand.
Exactly.
Right?
It's like the realtors that didn't adapt when social media came on board. Like, oh, we do print or billboard or grocery store basket advertising, which people still do.
Yeah.
But it's way more powerful, and you can get into way more eyes and hands by advertising on social media than you can by being in your local grocery store or, the billboard on Highway 65. You want to touch a broad reach, and the best way to do that is to utilize these technologies to your advantage and grow your business.
Absolutely.
So, some of the things that I'm excited about, if everybody saw in kind of the Bitcoin craze, and they had the whole kind of virtual reality world through Facebook, and then they also had this kind of wild created environment, this kind of Ready Player One environment.
What was it called? It is called Facebook World. No, it's not called.
Huh?
Metaverse.
The metaverse. There we go. There we go. So for 12 months ago, that was like the biggest thing. And Mark Zuckerberg went on and whatever. And it was supposed to be this everybody's selling real estate in the metaverse, and nobody's selling it. And here we are 12 months later, and people aren't really talking about that.
Well, and don't count it out, right? Because,
I'm not counting it out. I'm just saying,
who knows when it'll pick back up? I mean, these people are the powers that be
and
of
spent
the world.
millions of dollars.
So somehow I'm sure it will and can resurface in a very relevant way. But there were people picking up real estate in the metaverse so that they can have this digital asset.
And I'm not arguing the value of that. What
Yeah.
I'm saying is it started a conversation about the changing tide of the landscape of real estate to say now real estate is not just physical pieces of property.
Yeah.
It's intellectual property, it's digital assets, it's selling something through a coin or selling something through, a physical representation of it without the physical real estate ever being seen,
Yeah.
right? Ryan Serhant sold properties through an auction online. People had never seen them with Bitcoin, things like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All those are an example of technology coming in to revolutionize the real estate industry.
You know what I just realized what we need? This episode really prompted it. We need some of those glasses. What are they called?
VR glasses?
The VR glasses. Why don't we have those?
Because we just haven't bought them.
I mean, for business purposes, I feel like, and I mean, use this as you will.
Made me joke.
Sorry, use this as you will. I think that we need it for business purposes. You all very well may need it for business purposes as well. So I implore you to utilize your business to be on the cutting edge of technology and real estate. And I think it's important that we get some. Can you take care of that for me?
So it's funny. During the pandemic, one of the things that we got into was 3D tours of our properties.
Yes.
And using a kind of camera service that does a 3D Matterport service that does a 3D walkthrough. You can use virtual glasses to make that a virtual reality walkthrough.
Get out of town.
You can. And then in the height of COVID, that was a big, big deal because people wanted to see properties that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to touch because the world was locked down.
Right.
So that was our first kind of foray into figuring out what the future landscape is of walkthroughs and things like that. We did virtual open houses. Remember that?
We did.
That was a thing.
During COVID, yes.
During COVID, we did. But really, the question is, how do you add this to your current tried and true principles as well to bolster up your business and make yourself transition proof? How do you evolve your business in order to, whether that you're an investor or a realtor or a builder, how do you evolve your business with the use of technology to make you more resilient for the coming tide of all this kind of improvement?
Well, I think it's not ignoring what's in front of us, right? I don't think you necessarily have to be on the cutting edge of technology. Like, look, we have this very new thing. I think you need to be in line and in tune with what's happening so that you aren't left behind, right? Because you can be too far ahead of your time, right? Like people are not doing that, and you also can very much get left behind. So I think it's very important that you know, like what's relevant and what people are doing right now, what resonates with consumers right now, what resonates with renters right now, what resonates with buyers right now, and how can technology enhance that people are familiar with.
So if you could give the top 5 things that are relevant right now in the current real estate market for buyers, what does that look like?
Do you have an answer? I don't.
I do.
Okay, I figured. Because it was your question, I'm going to go ahead and just volley that right on back over to you. What are those top 5?
So in my opinion, and if I had to kind of quantify this,
sure,
the top 5 things that are most relevant to buyers are the analytics that come from some of these online services, whether that's pulling comps or looking at existing values or even pulling sales data for a home that you're looking at purchasing and projecting out kind of what the volatility or the future value of that home would be, especially if it's sight unseen, right? Also, if you have the ability to virtually walk through a house, check a video feed or something like that, looking at those things before actually going and taking a tour of the house, right? Secondly, you're going to look at what are the technology features in that home, right, that are important for the long-term use of the property, whether that's infrastructure, smart house features, locations of Wi-Fi, locations of smart lines, stuff like that, to know that in the, if you purchase it, that you can have access to the best internet connection, whatever you can within that community that you're purchasing. The next would be working with your realtor, whether digitally or physically, right, to negotiate that deal to get the best value, right?
Sure.
So leveraging, right now, rates are such a thing. So you want to leverage all your information you have to get the best rate through a buy down or incentives, things like that. We've been negotiating those kind of deals here lately, right? Like incentive stuff like that.
Yep.
What are the other things? Let me see.
I stopped counting. I don't know what number you're at.
I think I'm on the
You
last.
might be at 5.
I think I'm on the last one. I think I'm on the last one. Posting it on social media at the end.
Okay, boom. So let's talk about blockchain technology, because I don't know that it has really funneled down to the common everyday buyer. When we think about, and let me just be clear, blockchain is crypto, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. But I'm just saying, like, when we hear about blockchain type transactions, it's usually at a very high price point. It's not, I haven't seen any transactions in my sphere that have utilized that kind of currency to purchase property.
Yeah, especially with the volatility in the kind of crypto market right now, I don't think you're gonna see many of it for a while, because all the cryptos are down right now. But long term, the value in blockchain is in the utility of the technology, right? So imagine title companies using blockchain to validate ownership of properties, things like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a future focused thing.
Sure.
I don't think it's trickled down to tried and true traditional real estate yet, especially at the lower end price points. People just they can't afford to get that down and gritty into it.
Sure.
But on the higher end, people are doing digital real estate and doing NFTs for properties and things like that. A lot of that was in the last kind of 18 months and it's kind of fizzled out now within the last 6 months or so. But definitely in the future, I think you'll find a lot of wild card kind of like unique property stuff like that be attached to either NFTs or some type of blockchain based thing as a extra kind of oomph. Not necessarily that's where the transaction will be housed, but they'll want to be on the cutting edge of that to tie it into it.
So why do you think any of this is relevant to our audience?
Because it's the future. And if you're not prepared for the future as an investor, you get priced out, you get bought out, you get left behind, right? So while it might not appeal to the person buying a 3-2 house in Detroit today, 10 years from now, it'll be all that everybody talks about. And the opportunity is in understanding these things. I'm going to use a movie quote. I know you absolutely hate that.
I don't hate it. I just don't know what you're talking about.
So in the movie Hidden Figures.
Boom.
In the movie Hidden Figures, they brought in this big computer. And at the time, computing was done manually by people. Like they called them computers, but they were really just people, smart people with calculators.
Yep.
Right? So there was a group of Black women, all these calculators, these African-American calculators. And one of them went to the library and bought a book on, or rented a book on that computer that they were installing in NASA. And she learned it. And she taught all the other Black women. So when the computer got started up and phased out all the both white women and Black women group of, human computers, the Black women were trained to operate the computer and they had an opportunity. While the other people had to get trained, they were behind the gun.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So you can be ahead of the curve or behind the curve.
That makes sense.
It's really up to you.
Yeah.
But for every investor out there, every couple, everybody who, especially if you're young in your investing life, if you're under 50 and you're like, hey, I'm going to be around for another 20 years, so I want to start acquiring assets.
20? People going to be around 30, 40 more years?
Sure. But I'm saying within the next 10 to 20 years is when this stuff is really going to take over.
Sure.
Right? So if you know that, the faster you get to understand all these technologies, the faster you get to add these to your kind of mental Rolodex and you have kind of a well-versed knowledge of them, the better you can be. It's just a tool. All it is, it's information, like you like to say, that gives you context for the future.
Got it.
No, so that's how you use it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, right now I want you to use that like button and smash it. And also hit that subscribe and notification bell so you can check out the latest Marriage and Real Estate episode coming to you every week.
One day that won't be funny to me, but every time you insert that into the pod,
I have to.
I'm like, okay.
We've actually found out the majority of the people who check out our podcast are not subscribed to the channel.
Okay.
So we'd actually really love for you to take a moment and subscribe to the channel. It helps with the algorithm. We want to get to 1,000 subscribers this year, so we want you to help us with that.
Yeah.
We are also launching some amazing initiatives and the Marriage and Real Estate Conference 2023.
Mm-hmm.
More information to come. Actually, next episode we'll be launching information.
Yes.
So we really, really want to see you guys out. We really want you to participate in the things that we have coming up in the community that we're building here in Marriage and Real Estate. We have amazing more guests coming, and we have much more fun, cutting edge technology and topics to talk about. So it's important.
I agree. And I mean, if you've ever been around people who are interested in the same thing that you're interested in and excited about the same things that you're excited about, it makes for a really good time. And so we hope to create at the end of this year with the Marriage and Real Estate Conference to create a really good time learning about real estate, enhancing our marriage, growing wealth, and just overall hanging out with some really dope people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the takeaways from today's episode?
I think the takeaway is that the real estate industry is constantly evolving and technology is increasingly playing an important role in this process. So staying informed and adapting to new technologies can give buyers, sellers, real estate professionals, investors, couples, all of us a more competitive edge as we traverse this real estate market.
No, true. So the world, as you know, it is over. It's becoming a new world.
Yeah.
And we're going to be here. Are you going to be here? Well, if you listen to the Marriage and Real Estate Podcast, you will be. So we'll see you next week for another episode of Marriage and Real Estate Podcast. This is Kevin and Aisha. We out.